Okay. Harsh, do you mind just introducing yourself and talk a little bit about what you do there?
Sure. My name is Harsh Mal. I am a SU class of 2012 graduate. I graduated with a major in Communication and Rhetorical Studies from BPA and with minors in Writing and Marketing. I currently work at Ipsos, which is a market research company in New York City. I specialize in digital advertising. So, in a nutshell, we help our clients improve their online advertising. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So just so you guys know, you couldn't hear me before, but I did do a brief introduction of your name, title, and what your degree was. So next we'll have Janet. Can you talk a little bit about what you do at IBM?
Yep. Hi, everybody. My name is Janak, and I am a global security consultant within the Data and Application Security Services. I joined IBM about 3 months ago, where I have been very fortunate to be given exposure to 3 different projects from 3 different industries, be it telecom, publication, and HR consulting. Apart from which, I have also been able to contribute towards 6 proposals in order to get new clients to the company. And as a part of our services, we try to protect the customer's data from each level, that is from physical, that is the facility you're seated in, to personnel, that is who has access to what data, all the way to the applications as to what do you do on your phone or your computers and so forth.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then next we have John Anthony.
John Anthony. I graduated from SU 2012. I graduated from the School of Information Studies, known as the iSchool. I've been working with Ernst & Young since I graduated. I work as a senior consultant in the TSD group. So we deal with financial crimes and predominantly focus on anti-money laundering, know your customer, customer due diligence, and those kind of stuff. And I worked on multiple projects within the financial services, right from banking, insurance, and power and utilities as well. I'm looking forward to answer some of your questions. I think we'll be really happy to help you guys. I'll try my best.
Thank you, John. And then Mega, can you tell us a little bit about what you do in your position?
Okay, hi everyone. I work at The Guardian, which is a UK newspaper publication with offices in the US and Australia as well. And my title is Brand Engagement Specialist, but honestly, there are so many different titles, you don't really know what each of these titles mean, right? What I do is I do a lot of content strategy, so it's a lot of brainstorming as to what kind of content and campaigns should be created for clients in the native advertising spectrum. I handle a lot of social media strategy as well. So how much money do you put in promoting your content on social media? How do you communicate through different social channels? And I also do data and analytics with respect to digital measurement of content. So what kind of traffic is coming in? What are the numbers relating to that? Also, what kind of audience is coming onto our platform and understanding how we index against those audiences. So it's threefold, but it's all primarily content related.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So we're going to go in the same order, and then I'm hoping that we can have you guys talk a little bit about your job search, how you found your position, what methods you found most effective, since a lot of our students are going to be looking for jobs and internships in the coming months, and it would be helpful for them to have some of your perspective. So we'll start again with Harsh.
Okay, I'll break it into 2 parts because this is my second job since graduation. So after graduation, I was going about job searching, the predictable way, which is looking for job postings online, trying to make the best of my connections, attending job fairs, and so on. The most useful resource for me was LinkedIn. I felt that compared to all the other job listing sites, LinkedIn is the most comprehensive and also allowed me to do a little more research into the companies that I was interested in and who work there, trying to pick up some tips from their career paths, and if useful, getting in touch with them to get some advice. Through LinkedIn, I found a small communication strategy company in New York called Richard Attias and Associates, where I applied for an internship. It was a 6-month internship that I turned into a full-time position. My current job at Ipsos actually came about through LinkedIn as well, except this time I was recruited. A recruiter at LinkedIn simply typed in digital marketing and my name came up, and she just cold called me and we took the process from there. So again, a different use of LinkedIn, but LinkedIn has been a big part of both my jobs so far.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Janet, can you talk a little bit about how you found your position?
Sure. So my job search was pretty close to the university itself. I started off with the career fairs every semester, and based on my interactions with the different company representatives, I used to look for job opportunities either on Orange Link or their careers website, because oftentimes I noticed that there are opportunities outside of Orange Link as well, but my primary go-to website was Orange Link, get to know a bit more about the company, see what different job opportunities they have to offer, and if not satisfied, then I would resort to going to the company's career websites.
Okay, thank you. John, can you tell us a little bit about how you found your position at EY? Oh, 1 second. Magnolia, can you unmute him? Okay, let's see here. Oh. It says he's muted. Okay. John, can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you.
Now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so I found through the Orange Link, and I believe EY was on campus. So I met the recruiter at that point in time, and I handed my resume to them, and I got the job through Orange Link, and as a result of the fall, the career, they were in campus at that point in time. So I was fortunate that my resume was picked up, and then I went through the recruitment process through the Syracuse University. So that's how I got my full-time job. On the other hand, the internship that I got in EMC, I think I applied online. I saw the posting on Twitter, and I saw the posting, and I followed up with the recruiter through LinkedIn, and I get in touch with her, and that's how I got the internship position. So it's a mix of both. So the full-time I got through completely university and Orange Link, and the internship is through my effort, which I used internet and Twitter and LinkedIn, and that's how I got in touch with the recruiter, and that's how I got the job.
Thank you. And Mega, can you talk a little bit about how you found your position, what methods you used?
Okay, so for me it was a little different from all the others before me, but primarily because I went to Newhouse, and the industry that I was looking for a job in, if there are any of you from Newhouse or in communications like in VPA, it's going to be a little more difficult with respect to international candidates as compared to, say, the high school or engineering or any of the STEM disciplines. So what I noticed very quickly was, irrespective of how well I thought I was a fit for certain job descriptions which were advertised, my resume was never getting picked up, even though I did have enough experience as well as education to match it. So I quickly understood that that's not the way to go. The only other way was to network your way into a job. So I spent all my time trying to talk to people in different companies that I was interested in, and not from the perspective of, hey, can you give me a job, but more, hi, I'm a student and I'm interested in your company and the work that you do, and I would like to learn more about it because I don't have access to it right now. So through that networking process, I spoke to someone who luckily also had, they didn't even have an internship program actually, but I asked her after a point, I was like, after talking to her twice or thrice, I was like, see, these are my skill sets. This is what I'm learning in school. Do you think it would be possible for me to come and intern with you? And she said yes, even though they didn't really have a structured program. So I interned with the company, and you have to look at an internship as, say, a 2-month or a 3-month long interview process. So the kind of work you do will be noticed, and if they do have an opening or they like you as an employee of the company, as a fit to the company, they will try to put you into the system, which is what happened with me. And when you're interning, it also gives you the opportunity to understand whether this is the work that you like, or a company that you would want to spend more time in. So I used my internship to that end, and I got recruited as a full-time employee at the end of that internship.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to another question here. So what suggestions or tips do you have for current international students who are going to be looking to apply for jobs and internships either in the U.S. or outside of the U.S.?
I would say the first thing you should do is use the most accessible resources on campus. I think SU, in the career services, as well as each academic department, does a really good job of connecting students with relevant industries. So on-campus job fairs is an excellent example of that. I believe Newhouse's communication jobs fair is actually tomorrow. So if any of you are interested in checking out jobs in marketing, communications, advertising industries, that's a great place to start. Professors are an excellent resource because they have the best connections to the who's who in the industries that you might be interested in. And again, as Megha mentioned, it does not have to be, you don't have to approach these people from the point of, can you please give me a job? Be inquisitive about the industries. The 2 jobs I've had since graduation, I had no idea that these kinds of jobs existed until I had direct encounters with them. So, keep an open mind in terms of what kind of career you will be approaching. As an international student, you have the odds stacked against you. So I'm sure you're aware that you're always going to have to work those few percentage points extra just to get ahead of the pack and make a convincing case, especially if you're looking for a career in a non-technical field. What else can you do? Just in terms of some small things to keep up to date with visa regulations and so on, the state government has an excellent visa bulletin. It's a newsletter that will tell you about everything from what kind of visa allocations the government has to the companies that are getting the most amount of visa allocations. But even though the visa is a concern for any international student trying for full-time employment in the US, your first step should be getting a foot in the door, whether that be through an internship or a part-time position. Once you get your foot in the door, American companies really appreciate hard work and merit, and they will assess you based on your performance. And if you can convince them that you are worth it, then they will make you a key part of your team.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Janik, what tips do you have for our students?
I think Harsh touched upon most of the key points, but I would like to add do not hesitate from talking to recruiters from companies who do not tend to sponsor visas, because my case is is probably a good fit for that, because IBM usually did not sponsor visas in my position, but I did not hold myself back. I used to just go chat with them and be like, okay, I am looking for these opportunities. These are my interests. I know you are doing XYZ activities, but this is how I see myself adding value to your company, and how an experience or an opportunity at the company will help both of us mutually. And that's the only different approach I took, and it's helped me in a big way.
Okay, thank you. John, if you have anything you would like to add in regards to the job search tips or academic tips, things like that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think Harsh and Janak, they touched upon, the important things that keep in mind. I think Harsh spoke about how to, make use of the, career service. I think the career service have been doing a phenomenal job in terms of getting your resume up to date and, getting the resume in a format that every firm, accepts. I think that's the key start, right? And also the fact that you don't have to wait until the last minute to get your application processed. And I think it should be like an ongoing process where you need to start from, like, let's say, I can speak for my the master's students. It doesn't mean that you have to start searching at the end of your semester. It should be an ongoing process where you learn from the beginning to meet people and how to network and take it from there. And I think also Janak hit the point saying that it has to be a mutual relationship, that there's a thin line between, I know everybody will be looking for a job, at the same time you don't want to come across someone who's really strong or like desperate for a job, because you don't want to show that to the recruiters. It has to be like a mutual relationship where you bring in value and you grow with the firm professionally and personally. At the same time, you add some values to the firm. That's really key, if you ask me, and it'll be reflected in the way you make the conversation with the recruiters, and that's something they'll look for in a candidate. And also the fact that there should be something, like, everyone is unique in their own way, right? So there has to be something that within you that should stand out when you talk to these recruiters, because everyone, if you have the same resume and the same profile, they cannot hire every one of them, right? There has to be an X factor that differentiates you from the other people, and I think that'll go a long way. As long as you are unique in a way and the resume and your personality reveals that, I think that will go a long way, right? You cannot be someone who you can't be, right? So the resume is very important, and the personality is important, and also the fact that you should be in a position to have a good conversation with them to understand what they do, and also that should be something that you're willing to do as well. See, at the end of the day, you should enjoy what you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't grow with the firm. Now the firm would get any benefits out of you. That's very key to understand what are your strength and weakness, and then apply for a position that you think you would do a good job and that you would enjoy doing from 9 to 5. Because if you want to get stuck with something which you don't enjoy, you wouldn't do a good job. That's my only advice to you guys. But then also start looking into opportunities that you think will add values, and take courses according to that as well. That'll go a long way.
Okay, thank you. Hold on one second. I think that the computer wants to restart. Okay. Megha, can you add your tips as well?
Yeah, sure. I totally agree with everything that Harsh, Janak, and John just mentioned. And I would just like to add that at the end of the day, it is a very stressful process, and it's even more so because you're not alone in it and you see people around you doing similar things as well. But as John mentioned, you cannot be everything. So the starting point to the job process, at least for me, was I kind of assessed what it was that I'm good at, what I would like to be good at, and what I would like to stand out in. This is something that I sat down and wrote down and did some research in and kind of introspected. And it's helped me a lot because then I could eliminate and say, okay, this is not something I'm interested in. This is not something that I would enjoy. This is not something I'm going to be good at. You know, understanding those realities, I feel, is the starting point of your job search. And it sounds a little generic at this point, but honestly, if you're able to narrow it down, it will help you, and you'll kind of figure it out when you're talking to potential recruiters and people from different companies. Because when you're having a conversation, you'd be able to tell them that, you know what, this is what I'm interested in. Honestly, when I started my job process, or when I started school, I had absolutely no idea about digital analytics, nothing at all. And it was a little intimidating because it was numbers oriented. There were so many different softwares and tools we didn't have access to. But one of my first conversations with a recruiter was, he was like, so what are you interested in? And what I told him was, I want to work in digital analytics, but honestly, I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know everything, but I'm open to learning and I want to learn. And he appreciated that. And that's what people will appreciate at the end of the day. They're going to judge you not on the basis of what you know, but what you're ready to do once you get into the job. So be proactive about it. Understand what your pros and cons are and kind of direct your job search. Don't be all over the place applying to 200 different opportunities. Honestly, there were times when I've heard fellow classmates say, oh, I applied to 50 job opportunities last night. But if you think about it logically, why would you do that if you know that 40 of it isn't a good fit for you? Don't look at your job search from the point of view of, oh my God, I have to get a job. You're going to have a better probability of landing a job if you're more clear about what you want and what you can do. So spend some time and sort that out in your head before you go out. So XYZ might apply to 100 different opportunities, but you may apply to only 10, but you still have a better shot. And honestly, personally, I have not applied to a single job opportunity which I just found online without trying to first communicate to somebody in a company, in that company. I have not sent my resume even once just on a blind, okay, I found this on the internet and I'm going to apply for this. Because I kind of decided that that's a waste of time. And it's worked for me, and I've seen it work for a lot of other people. So if that's something that you want to try out, I think you should.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to ask one more question, and then we'll open it up to the students. Okay, so the last question for you guys that I have is, what is something that surprised you about the U.S. work environment or work culture that you would like to share?
I would say it wasn't exactly a surprise, but it's something that I really appreciate, and I touched upon it earlier, was how American companies place a lot of value on merit-based achievements. What have you done on your own? What have you achieved? You know, more than who you know or you know, the prestige of your university. If you have accomplished real tangible things, and if you find a good creative way of showcasing those achievements, companies appreciate that. Even when working at a company, the teams are very supportive of the projects that you're working on and really appreciate the achievements that you managed to achieve. So that's one of the things that I really appreciate, because so it's just a contrast to India, which is where I'm from, where a lot of where you reach in your career is about simply knowing the right people. And whereas that can be useful, over here I didn't know the right people, which is why I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to just showcase my skills and abilities and build a career upon that.
Okay, thank you. Janik, is there something that you would like to share in regards to that question?
Yep. Before I share my thoughts on this question, I would like to go back to the previous question regarding the job search. A point that I would like to add is do not get disheartened when you see that companies do not respond to your applications or you did not make it to an interview round. You have to accept some level of rejection, but constantly keep yourself motivated and be patient to find the job that you want. I waited a year and a half to find the job that I wanted, and I'm happy that it took that long because it helped me grow and change myself for the better. So that's one thing that I'd like to add. To answer this question, um, in my experience, I found that approaching senior executives was really easy, and they are always going to listen to you. Do not be intimidated by the position or their level or the number of people they manage or the years of experience that they have. I did not have any work experience in the past. This is my first job, and I had the opportunity to like pitch my idea to a very senior executive who not only welcomed it, he also marketed it to the other senior executives. And I am lucky to be known by name and face amongst the very senior executives even before they have interacted with me. So do not hesitate, just go out and pitch your ideas. It's really important.
Okay, thank you. John, would you like to add something?
Well, most of the people answered this question, and also I don't think I'm the right fit to answer this question because I never worked anywhere else outside the United States. I'm probably not the right person to answer this.
Sure.
And also, but one thing I would like to add is that people are very approachable and they're very kind, and they were like motivated me and they gave me a lot of new challenges. Even when I was an intern with the EMC, they handed me like a system which is about a couple of $1 million, and they didn't even think twice to give it to me for testing, which I think spoke a lot about the firm itself. Because so I was an intern, like I mean, they could have. It's a lot of risk giving such a valuable machine to me and just play around with the testing. I mean, luckily it worked out well, but that's the kind of a confidence they have on the interns. They did not treat me like an intern. That's what I'm trying to say. They had a lot of trust in me, and they appreciated even the smallest thing I did, and they were very grateful for all the work I did. Even though I worked there only for 6 months, I'm still in touch with the people over there. As a matter of fact, I got the recommendation for the work I did 2 years ago, a couple of weeks back, and the manager, he remembered each and every small thing that I did, so which I think speaks a lot about the firm itself.
Okay. Megha, is there anything that surprised you about the U.S. work culture or environment at your company?
Actually, so I work in a company which is it's a UK-based company, and even the workforce in the US offices is split 50-50 between the UK, US, and other countries. So it's an extremely interesting work environment because you have an American methodology. You also have heavy reliance on the UK office. And having worked in India as well for a few years, it's all very distinct. The way London works is different from the way New York works, which is different from the way Mumbai works. And I'm sure that applies to all the other countries as well. So what you need to quickly understand is there are pros and cons to everything, right? What I love about the US and what surprised me as well was it's about the work. The first point is about the work, and it's people are secondary and the environment is secondary. Let's get the work done. Is there a problem? Let's find a solution. And everything else falls second to it, even protocols. With the UK, it's all about protocols. You have to talk to a particular person if something is wrong, and only if that person directs you to another person do you go to the next person. So you need to tread a very fine line, which in America, you, like Janak and Harsh also mentioned, you can walk up to anybody if you have a problem. I have no problem going and knocking on my CEO's door. In fact, he sits a few tables away from where I do. And that's amazing, and I think that's a very American way of working. So you should develop a habit of being open to that culture and you should try to talk to people. It's not about brown nosing your way and just simply trying to make a good name for yourself without any backing. But if you're curious about things, go ahead, go ask people how things are done. Go ask them questions about their department, which America allows you to do more so than any other country, I feel, at least the other countries that I've worked in. So that was a big surprise and something that helped me a lot.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll open it up to the students. So you can either ask a general question and our panelists can answer, or you can ask a question to a specific person. Okay, we'll start up here.
First of all, thank you for sharing your tips. Can you hear me?
I'll repeat the question.
Well, my name is Kenny, and I am a graduate student, and this is my last semester. So when I just came here, I didn't think about working in the U.S., but after I did an internship, I realized that I really want to work here. So I think it was a little bit late for me to make the decision, but I am trying to establish the network and applying for jobs. But first of all, when I just started the network with Alumni who is working in the organization that I want to work for, but I don't want to give an impression that I am lobbying them to get a job. So I want to approach it very nicely and smoothly, but I also want to show my interest to the position, and I also want to hear the advice. So what do you think it won't be a nice skill to approach to them in a smooth way? And the second thing is, well,
let's start with one question. Okay, so it sounds like what you're asking is what's the best way to approach alumni on LinkedIn or in person? Is that right?
Well, actually, I got an address, so I am trying to write an email first because it is one of the easiest ways. So.
Okay, so starting with email, if she's going to be addressing an alum, how would you like to be approached, or what is some advice that you have about writing an email to an SU alum? If you would like to answer, you can indicate. Okay, so we've got John and then Megha.
I mean, there is the way I see it. I mean, I got few emails and requests at times in LinkedIn and email as well. There's you don't want to. So the thing is, you need to structure your question in a way that it will be it needs to be very specific. It cannot be generic, right? So, for instance, there were questions in which, hey, could you refer me, because I'm not a recruiter, so I cannot help you. So you should figure out what I do, or in any way that I could help you. So you have to structure your question in such a way that you want to learn what I do, and you don't want to jump into a conclusion in which, hey, could you refer me, because that is not. I mean, we could do it, provided if you're a recruiter, but if you're not, then it won't look nice on you as well, right? You need to structure what is that you're trying to achieve, right? Have some agenda, structure your thoughts, and it has to be like a conversation. Like, you have to have a couple of follow-ups and figure it out what they need to do, and is there any way that it could help as well. As a matter of fact, I like the way Janet reached out to me. It was very structured, and he had a clear thought process, and he had a clear question that he had for me. And there are people who ask questions just for the heck of it, but then there are people who ask actual questions, and we know what it is, right? So you want to structure them in such a way that you're really interested. At the same time, you need to learn what we do, and then you can come to a decision in which if you want to know about it or not. Because you don't want to jump into something which you're not comfortable. Like I said earlier, you need to figure it out, what are your strengths and weakness, and accordingly you can apply for the jobs which interest you, right? You don't want to come across someone just getting a job just for the heck of it. You can get it, but then you wouldn't enjoy it. I come across a lot of emails and requests, and you need to come up with a specific set of questions. What is that you're trying to achieve? What is that you're trying to learn? And just because some of my firms are there on the campus, that doesn't mean we can refer each and every SU. I mean, we can, but we have to physically know you, right? Because our credentials is at risk too. I cannot refer someone whom I hardly know, right? So that's something that they need to think about. We can guide you, right? But Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Mega, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that John said. And what I felt was really beneficial for me was I had a very structured way of looking at it. Of course, you have to do your research with respect to every single person that you're reaching out to. You can't just have a form, a basic format that you send to many. It doesn't work that way. So look at their LinkedIn, do some research into the company. You don't have to know everything, but you need to know something. And also, what I felt worked a lot for me was I would structure my email in such a way that I would keep one line to introduce myself. I would say, my name is so and so. I'm doing this program in this school. And I always made it a point to mention how I got to know about them. So I would say I found you through alumni connections on LinkedIn, or so and so told me about you, or I was looking at the alumni directory and your name came up. So what that does is it makes it seem that you're not intruding, because their information has been put out by them in the alumni directory or on LinkedIn. So they have given you permission to do that, right? So it's always great to reinforce that point. So I found your connection. I mean, I found your details on so and so platform, and then I would say that I'm interested in this industry, in this kind of a job, and I'm trying to figure my way around, especially since the job process is a little tricky for an international student. That would be the second point that I would add to my email. And lastly, I would leave it open to them. I would say it would be great if we could set up a time to talk on the phone or a video call, or if you are in the same physical location, it would be great to grab a quick cup of coffee with you. But I would really like some guidance at this point. So you don't want to be overbearing. You don't want to be like, hey, I'm an alumni from the school and you have to help me. That's a big turn off, right? So be open and try to see if they're open to helping you. Out of 10 emails that you send, maybe 5 won't respond. 3 may, but 2 definitely will set up a call with you, and that's all you need. So that's how I approached my emails.
Okay. Janik has something to add too.
If you're looking for somebody to sort of break the ice or introduce you, look for common connections. When I reached out to John, I was pretty fortunate to have one of the members from the career services have him as a student in the past year. So he helped me get introduced to John, and breaking that ice initially and having that introduction did help me approach him in a lot easier fashion.
Okay. What other questions do we have from students? Go ahead, straight shirt.
Hi, my name is Nikki. I recently, a few of us have been to the OPT seminar that I had last week. And I wanted to ask how that process was for you guys, dealing with the logistics of getting the opportunity to intern somewhere and work, selecting your start date. How do you go about speaking to employers about this, since it's quite a risk of their investments, since now with the lottery and whatnot, things have changed a lot since 5 years ago when we applied to come here. So I was wondering if you guys had any tips for that. How did you select your start date? How did you set yourselves?
Okay. So I'm not sure if you guys can hear or not, but she asked, what was your experience with the OPT process, especially since things have changed a lot in the past 5 years? If you have anything you want to add about that, perhaps Janik and Mega, since you have most recently been hired, if you want to talk about that? Okay, Mega?
Okay, so my program was a 1-year grad program at Newhouse, and what I did, since it's not a STEM program and we don't have the 2-year extension for OPT, which I think now is not available for STEM as well, I'm not sure. But when I graduated, it was just 12 months of OPT, right? So I was very nervous about how I'm going to use it, because if you're going to spend, say, 3 months searching for a job, that lowers the amount of time you get to work, right? So what I did was I converted my last semester into CPT for my internship. It wasn't part of the curriculum. We had a capstone in school, but I found an internship and I went to my program director and I said, you know what, I found this great internship. So instead of the capstone, can I do an internship instead? Because the way I thought about it was if I'm using 3 months for an internship on CPT instead of OPT, that means I'm saving up on OPT time, right? So that's the way I approached it. If you are just graduating and this is your last term, so probably you don't have that option and you can't really plan for that. But for others who are graduating next year, this is something that worked well for me because you're converting in school time into job experience, which can help you with the job search. So that's what I did. And best case scenario was not to waste even 1 day of my OPT and get hired full time right after the internship. Worst case scenario, I have 12 full months after some work experience in the US, which is gold for an international student. Always remember, no matter how much of experience you have in your home country, even though there are so many advantages in the work culture in America, like we spoke about in the previous question, one disadvantage is they very easily discount your work experience in your home country if they haven't heard of the company that you've worked for. So even though I had worked at huge companies back home, which are equivalent to the biggest publications, the biggest broadcasters in the US, that really didn't hold any value. So your goal should be to clock as much as American experience as possible. And if you can throw in CPT into that mix, then it's a huge advantage for you. So I applied for my OPT at the last possible date that I could extend my I-20 to. So even though my class graduated on June 26th, because I converted to CPT and I said that my internship ended mid-August, I pushed my I-20 to mid-August so that I could start my OPT then instead of in June. So I get 12 months from that moment because you never know how your visa process is going to go. Even though I have to apply for my H1 in the next round in April, in case through the lottery I don't get it, but my company agrees to let me stay out till the end of my work authorization, I get that many more months. So instead of, if I don't get my visa, God forbid, and so then I can work till the end of August instead of leaving in June. So that's the calculation you need to keep in mind.
Okay, that's definitely helpful, but just make sure that you talk to the Slutsker Center as well.
Yes. That's another thing. With every decision that you take with respect to CPT, OPT, you need to understand the rules that are attached to it. My program allowed for a capstone or an internship, so I could convert to CPT. But if you have a core class and you go marching to your directors and you demand for CPT, that's not going to happen. So you need to be very clued in about what the rules and regulations are. And always, always, always walk into the Slutsker Center, and even if you have the dumbest question, go throw it out there because that's the most important thing. You do not want to be violating any international education rules.
Thank you. Janik, okay, you have something to add to that?
Yep, Mega did have the flexibility to choose the CPT route and then continue or transition with the OPT route, but I'm pretty sure not everybody has that option. So what I would recommend is build a very close relationship with your manager or the other employees at the company, because for me, I have already had this conversation with my manager that the H-1B process is a lottery system, and if I do not get my visa, I can only work in this country for a limited number of days. What is a workaround? And he's like, okay, we are a global competency. We have other offices, so we can probably push you out to another location where you do have work authorization. Now, be it in your home country or any other country where you can obtain work authorization. So look up the options, see if your company is a global company or not. If it's not, most companies have global partners in today's date, be it in the same industry or be it in another industry. But your manager or the fellow employees at your company, they may have a network to create an accommodation or an opportunity at either their firm at another site or at a partner location. So I would definitely work on the relationship.
Okay. What other questions do we have? Okay, right here.
My question is specifically
For who? Mega.
Mega.
Okay, Mega, this is for you.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so your question, you just mentioned that having experience in your home country doesn't really count. But what if one has this experience in a U.S. Company, really don't know it, but it's in a foreign country? Has an advantage that you apply to all applying for internship or job?
So she's asking if you feel that experience in the U.S. versus the home country versus other countries, which ones are more valuable? No, that's not the question.
No. The
Okay.
question was, she worked for a well-known American company in another country. So
Okay.
how will American countries view that compared to maybe like a foreign company that they might not know that is well-known? So like, let's say that she worked for IBM in China.
Okay. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I just want to ask her as well. Which industry has she worked in?
Mine is actually advertising.
Can't hear you.
Advertising.
Okay. Okay. So this is actually a very valid and interesting question, because it's definitely better than having experience in companies from your home country, because it pops from your resume immediately. But at the same time, what I've noticed in communications and advertising as well is that it's still a barrier. I mean, I wouldn't recommend you to bank on that fact. It's definitely one up when it comes to other international candidates. But at the same time, being international in advertising, communications, journalism, international experience will not be given as much importance as it should be. Case in point, I knew of someone who worked for 5 years at Ogilvy in Beijing. That's 5 years in such a big global organization. But it was still, I mean, her resume was still not picked up very easily. So don't go in with the idea, oh, I have experience. It's definitely good, but don't bank on it. So even when you're talking to people, bring it up, definitely bring it up, but try to align your work with the way work is done in the US. So understand what your role in, say, China or Japan or wherever it is that you're from, how that role would be played out in the US, and try to think of US examples, and especially since it's advertising, so you can try to think of US brands that you can cite as examples which would relate to your work back home.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so some of our panelists do have to leave at 6:30, so you guys can just sign out as you need to. But what other questions do we have? Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we're at a career fair and we're talking to people. Should we immediately make it clear that we're international students, or if that's kind of immediately shut them down? Or should we let them warm up to us before we just play the scary card of being international?
Okay, so at a career fair, should the students bring up being an international student immediately, or should they have a discussion first, let them warm up to the student, and then bring it up? What are your thoughts on that? Okay, Harsh?
I think a huge advantage of career fairs is that the companies that are there, they know that you want a job, so that's already a big chunk of the ice that's broken. So you don't need to schmooze with them too much to make yourself approachable. When it comes to disclosing the secret of being an international student. I think you kind of have to play it by ear, depending on the company and the industry. What I did at career fairs was first try to find out, sort of test the waters. What kind of positions are open? What kind of people are they looking for? Would my skill set be an appropriate fit? If those things match up, then I would ask for their recommendation. Try and find out how welcoming the country is to international students. What kind of opportunities do they have? How international are they in their approach? Whether it's a global company, even if it's a domestic company, do they do projects abroad? Anything that gives you an indication that you might be a good fit for the organization as an individual. If you can convince them that as an individual you will be a good fit for the organization, then I think regardless of whether you're an American citizen or not, they will be willing to consider your candidacy.
Okay. And Janik as well? Okay.
So in my experience, I did get to interact with a lot of recruiters on campus. And oftentimes I notice that when a recruiter finds value in you based on the conversation then and there, they usually tend to ask, are you a permanent resident of the country or not? If they do not, I would, if you are comfortable mentioning it, that you are international, do mention it. But I would leave it to the application on the website, because that usually has an option to indicate whether you would now or in the future require any visa sponsorship. And by that time, like if the recruiter knows your name and your face, they just say that, okay, I want this person, and they tell HR, find a workaround. So I would leave it to the end.
Okay. What other questions do we have? That's it. Okay. So I think that we are out of questions for now. Thank you all so much for sharing your advice and experience. We can just give them a quick round of applause. All right. So we'll just send out some information after related to the event, and you can share the link with your friends or students as you need to, okay? Feel free to come up for questions. Thank you all so much. I'm going to stop. Oh.